He's broken his leg, I think.
Really, really good.
Mr. and Mrs. Lorette, can I speak with you for a sec?
We ran the tests, and you're right. He does have OI.
What? How?
2 of his ribs had been broken and healed over.
Well, most likely from childbirth.
The movie opens with a man in a suit named Scott Lorette attending a New Year's Eve party. He gets rowdy, drinking and dancing all night. Then the narrator, Scott's tween son Austin, explains that when things break, you won't know whether it's good or bad. Austin says that night is when everything in his life broke, and he'll tell us all about it. Meanwhile, Scott is visibly drunk and stumbling into the bathroom, seemingly arguing with himself in the mirror about being a bad husband and father. Austin has a genetic condition called osteogenesis imperfecta that makes his bones brittle and prone to breakage. Austin is also autistic, the kind that makes him very chatty. His narration returns to the New Year's Eve party, where Scott fetches Austin and his younger brother Logan to head home for the night. Scott is clearly unfit to drive, yet he does so anyway. The scene shifts again as Austin turns to narrate how his parents met. Scott is window shopping with his friend Joe when he spots the beautiful sales clerk, Austin's mom named Teresa.
Look at this girl, she's stunning.
At Joe's encouragement, Scott flirts with Teresa and asks her out on a date. One date becomes 2 and 3, as they seem to be getting along great. Teresa explains that she has the same genetic condition as Austin, shortened to OI, which causes her beautiful blue eyes. Not long after their last date, Scott is hanging out with Joe when he receives a shocking call from Teresa. The news makes Scott anxious because he doesn't think he's ready to be a dad. While Joe consoles Scott, Austin comments that Joe is actually Scott's imaginary friend, who he talks to since childhood. After Scott consults with his parents, he decides to take responsibility as a future father. Now 3 months into the pregnancy, Teresa moves in with Scott to prepare raising their child. While Scott makes a song on his ukulele, Teresa admits her worries about their baby having the same bone condition as hers. However, Scott reassures her that their child is going to be perfect. Austin's day of birth finally comes. Austin is born with no problem, except for a couple of broken ribs due to his OI.
And partly because those metal things broke my ribs, but no one even knew.
Since his parents don't know that he inherited the condition, they're at a loss as to why baby Austin keeps crying day and night. The first break his parents notice is when toddler Austin falls while playing. In the hospital, the doctor gives Teresa and Scott the bad news about Austin's OI.
That's why he was crying so much, Scott.
Now that they know, Austin is kept very safe by his parents, although accidents still happen, leading him to break more bones. The scene changes into Scott finding out that Teresa has been married before. He confronts her about it, and she admits to having been married twice before during her youth because she wanted to escape her alcoholic father and her tired mother. Despite the explanation, Scott is having issues with accepting the truth. After some time to think, Scott decides to ask Teresa to marry him, saying that he thinks he might love her while she's taking out the trash. The half-baked proposal annoys Teresa instead.
So you're saying you don't want to marry me?
Not now, I don't.
They eventually get happily married anyway, each saying what they admire about each other at the altar. The small family moves into a new big house while Teresa is pregnant with Austin's baby brother. Then, when Austin first meets his newborn brother, his parents realize that Austin may be a little different than most kids. His behavior continues as he grows older, needing a specific routine and getting upset if it gets interrupted. In the next scene, Austin narrates that as a child, he feels distant from his father because Scott couldn't always see how Austin sees life. This causes Austin to get frustrated and cry. Scott is also frustrated, thinking that he's a bad father. To remedy the situation, they decide to do a psychiatric evaluation, where the doctor confirms to Austin's parents that he is on the autism spectrum. Teresa feels relieved to finally know about the condition, but Scott keeps beating himself up his past behavior towards his son. Life goes on for the Lorette family. As Austin grows older, more broken bones ensue too. One time, the whole family even broke their bones at the same time. Austin says Scott calls it a trifecta. Now attending the first day of middle school, Austin seems excited to wear his jester hat. Logan assures Scott that they're going to be okay. Austin enthusiastically greeting his schoolmates as he enters. He thinks that a classmate named Tyler is his friend, but Logan protects him from Tyler's antics.
Hey man, that's my brother. He's autistic. I'm autistic. True fact.
One day, to stop Austin from talking too much, Scott takes his sons to the park to fly. Austin imagines they're flying, but they're actually just on a swing, with Logan pushing them. Scott is enjoying himself too much that he doesn't realize Austin is now pushing the swings. He bumps into Austin, causing him to fall and break his vertebrae. Teresa is devastated by the news, praying and blaming Scott for not being careful. Despite crying earlier, Austin is happy to wear the brace with a Batman insignia drawn on. The next scene shows how Teresa deals with the stress of being a stay-at-home mother, while Scott needs to travel for work. She dances together with Austin and plays video games after seeing the expensive medical bills. Meanwhile, Scott deals with his stresses by excessively drinking at the bar. Life gets more challenging when Scott gets laid off from work because they want a younger single worker who can travel more. He reassures Teresa, saying he has 3 months' worth of severance while he looks for a new job. Despite that, as the stress increases, Scott progressively shuts himself away from his family. The scene shifts to Austin becoming the school's tiger mascot during a match while Scott watches. For no reason, Austin loses his cheerful mood, while narrating that sometimes happy moments feel sad and vice versa. However, Scott supports him by putting on the mascot head and dancing, returning his son's cheer. When they return home, Scott is confused because their trash bins are missing. Teresa says that she hasn't been able to pay the utility bills because the credit card debts are piling. The couple have a heated argument over money while Austin listens in. To solve the problem, they decide to sell their house and move to a smaller, older house. More stressed as he drinks more and more, even appearing distant when his parents visit for Thanksgiving. He confides regarding life's burdens with his parents, and they reassure him that every adult feels that way. Due to Scott's drunkenness that night, Teresa throws out all of Scott's wine down the drain the next morning. She says that she doesn't want to have an alcoholic husband like her father.
You stop this nonsense right now, Scott, or I am done.
Another issue arises when Austin is deemed to be a distraction in his class, prompted by Tyler's antics.
You, Lieutenant Weinberg, you have the luxury of not knowing what I know. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. Right, and then questions demanding which I provide.
The school recommends that Austin is placed in a school for special needs children. Scott receives the news as he sneakily drinks in the bar. In the next scene, Austin shows aggressive behavior on the dinner table, yelling profanities, throwing a can at Teresa, and even choking Logan. They have to restrain Austin and take him to a psychiatric ward to be evaluated. His parents are heartbroken, and so is Austin, who sings the lullaby Scott made when Teresa was still pregnant.
Said I will always be with you.
The heartbreak goes so far that Teresa almost crashes while driving, and Scott lashes out at Preacher Rick, cursing God for his family's misfortunes. The scene moves to Teresa and Scott picking up Austin from the psych ward. To their surprise, Austin seems cheerful and social. The family is reunited in time for Christmas Day. Logan gets a new skateboard while Austin gets a new bow tie for his collection. It's not like Austin enjoyed staying in the psych ward because he uses that fact to guilt-trip Scott into agreeing to join a father-son camp. Seeing the cheerful Austin, they both agree not to send him to the special needs class anymore. Austin is very excited about the camp, counting the days even though it's still 2 months away. Finally, we arrive at New Year's Eve in the next scene, the one Austin told us about in the beginning of the film. We see the scene where we thought that Scott was talking to himself in the mirror. Technically he is, but in his mind, he's arguing with Joe. Joe is the one calling him out failing as a husband and father for getting too drunk at the party. However, Scott believes that he still has himself under control and says he's done with Joe. We don't see the crash happening, but in the morning,
I want you out of this house right now.
he sees his car that crashed onto a tree by their house and asks if the kids are okay. Teresa says they are, but she kicks him out of the house because she doesn't want an alcoholic near her children. Scott doesn't argue, instead driving straight to his parents' house. Once again, Scott confesses his mistake to his parents.
Your mistakes don't define you. How you heal does.
His father says he'll stay with them for now, while his mother tells him to break an empty cup. She says Scott is broken like that cup is, but that everyone is also broken like that. She then gives her son the encouragement that he needs to heal. To heal from his addiction, Scott starts attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. His sons visit him to play one day, but he has to tell Austin that he doesn't know when he'll be coming home because he needs time to get better. On Teresa's end, Lori is trying to convince her that her situation is different from their parents. However, Teresa is adamant to separate from Scott. The next scene shows Logan walking to school carrying his new skateboard when Tyler grabs it, saying it's his now. Logan won't accept the bullying, and when Tyler punches him, he punches back, starting a fight. Now home, Logan asks Austin why he wants to be friends with Tyler anyway. Austin says that it's because he thinks Tyler is sad since his dad has been in jail for a long time and his mom is fighting cancer. Logan feels bad about it too, so to make amends, he decides to gift his new skateboard to Tyler. Tyler seems hesitant, but he eventually agrees with Logan that they're better off being friends. Back to Scott, he's in another AA meeting when preacher Rick sits next to him. Rick says that he's an alcoholic just like Scott, which helps Scott with accepting his own flaws. He begins to open up more during the meetings. The scene moves to Logan preparing for school. He's upset that Austin can't come to school because of the past incident and the special class recommendation. However, the school calls Teresa and Scott to have a chat about Austin's education. Scott is upset, saying that Austin thrives in the public school with his friends and doesn't need a special education. To their surprise, the counselor reveals a petition signed by almost all the students, demanding Austin's return. The whole school cheers for Austin's return as the school mascot. Logan also thanks Tyler, who's now his buddy, for organizing the petition.
Thanks for doing this!
I don't know what you mean!
With one problem solved, now it's Scott's turn. He's in another AA meeting, opening up about his struggle with needing life to be perfect. He says he wants to be more like Austin, who's able to enjoy life to the fullest. When he comes back to his parents' house, he finds Teresa waiting. Scott breaks down, apologizing for his mistakes. Thankfully, Teresa says that if Logan can forgive his bully, then she ought to be able to forgive the man that she loves. Finally, it's time for the father-son camp. Rick is also attending with his son, and he urges Scott to trust Austin's abilities and not worry so much. They all had a wonderful time in the woods. By the campfire, Scott tells Rick to relay his thanks to God. Rick says can do it himself since it's easy, which leads Scott to think that Joe is God. In the next scene, Austin narrates that Scott can finally see what Austin sees. As Austin holds Scott's hand on the walk to their car, he's finally grateful for his life. The family is back in full swing, enjoying a meal out in the diner. The movie ends with pictures and updates of the real-life Lorette family.